Okay, so today is Tuesday, June the 2nd, and this is the monthly meeting of the PAC Acquisition Corporation.
I'm sorry, Jay, it's May 2nd,
What did I say?
June 2nd. It's May 2nd.
Thank you. I stand corrected. So it's now 7:03. Currently, we have 12 participants, of which 5 are members of the board. We have John Hanson, Carol Joy Harris, Steve Plosher, and Vicki Waddell here. And we have John Feld and Irma back from their sojourn. Welcome back. So can I call for approval of the final agenda? John Hanson, do you have a correction?
Yes, I do. But yeah, let's get her on the.
Yeah, I move to approve the agenda.
Yeah, and I'll second. Now we can open it to corrections. And item H, I would like to change that Tuesday, May 6th to Tuesday, June 6th for the next board meeting.
Good idea. Any other corrections? Additions? Call for approval. All in favor of the agenda? It's 5-0. Public comment for issues not on the agenda, a 3-minute limit for all public comments throughout the meeting. Kindly identify yourself, as we don't have a video recording today. Any public comment? Seeing none.
Carol Joy's hand is up. Is that?
Oh, Joe's hand's up.
No.
Joe. Go ahead, Joe. Unmute yourself if you're not.
Oh, we can't hear you, Joe.
No, this is Connie calling in.
Okay, thank you, Connie. Joe, do you have a comment?
I do.
You're muted.
Wait a second, Connie. Joe, we can't hear you. We can see your lips moving, but we can't hear you. Oh, can you turn up your microphone? What, you know what, could I suggest that maybe you put it in the chat? Well, we can't hear him, but Connie had something.
Let Joe go ahead.
Go ahead, Connie.
Go ahead.
Yes, please.
All right, this is Connie Marilich, 101 Marin Valley Drive. I just want to mention that next time you're going to talk about the rules and regs, and I think everybody should know that whatever happens, we don't have any employees other than Matt Greenberg that will enforce the rules.
Okay, the rules and regulations, that's on the agenda. So
I thought it was next time, but you told me it's going to be done in June.
No. The rules and regulations is on the agenda. So when we get to that item on the agenda, then you would talk about it. Okay?
Right. Now you said there wasn't a meeting. Isn't there supposed to be an annual meeting on June 3rd?
Yes.
Ooh, yeah.
There is supposed to be an annual meeting on
election.
It is on June 3rd.
That's right.
It's on item G on this agenda.
Yeah,
John, any other public comment?
it is, yeah.
Joe, if you can call in, or if you want to type it out on the chat, or once you figure out how to turn on your mic, let us know. So no other comments for the public. So I'd move on to the consent calendar for the approval of the final minutes of the April 4th meeting. Can I have a motion?
I'll move
John,
to approve the minutes.
You're muted, John.
I will move to approve the minutes.
I second it.
Okay. Any comments, additions, subtractions? Hearing none, call for the approval of the April 4th meeting minutes. So again, 5-0. Thank you very much. Okay, receiving reports on maintenance and capital projects from Matt Greenberg. Matt wasn't able to attend today's meeting. For those of you who don't drive past the clubhouse, work has started on the pump house as of today. So we don't have a completion date, but they'll be working in plain sight. And we met with them last week, and they seem to be gung-ho to complete the job and do a fine job. So all seems to be well in that regard. I don't have anything else. If there's any comments about what Matt might comment on, you might say something, and we will pass it on to Matt. Yes, Ellen Jane? You're muted.
Hi, thank you. Since this is would be under energy usage, this is today's episode of how do we best deal with the climate crisis, and I'd like to address the climate in the clubhouse, and it's a small portion of what we are using gas and electric for compared to, say, the hot tub. But I randomly go in there, not to check, but if I'm taking a walk, I do look at the thermostats. And on Sunday, when I was there, and it was about 52 degrees outside, and the fireside thermostat was set to 68 degrees air conditioning, and it was running to keep it cold. And it was 52 outside, and it was running. So I saw, well, I won't even say who I saw, and asked for it to change. So that wasn't done. But then on Monday and Tuesday, I took a walk, and both the fireside and the library were set to 67 degrees heat, which is like, clap, clap, clap. According to PG&E guidelines, if you want to save energy, you keep your furnace at 68 degrees or lower. And then when you leave your house, you're supposed to, and which I do at night, I don't leave my house, but I've turned my thermostat to 56 degrees. And the air conditioner recommendations are set to 78 degrees for air conditioning to save energy. So my question for Matt is, are there any guidelines? Is there anybody taking care of that? Does anybody care? I mean, I assume it can be programmed according to the weather, but that's not done. And I think, it runs all night long, whether it's on air or heat. So it's just something I would like to see addressed as my environmental consciousness. It's a big deal for me. So I wonder whether that can be addressed, whether there can be some sort of programming and not just have it random and running the air conditioner when it's 52 degrees outside. Somebody did turn it up to 70, but it still was set to air conditioning. And yeah, like that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from Matt? Okay, moving on to the PAC Treasury report. Steve, closure.
Okay, the treasurer's report is pretty simple. Same account balance as before, $2,193 in our petty cash account. Of the PAC annual budget on the club financial statements, we're allowed to spend $4,000 for the fiscal year, which will be ending June 30th. We have spent $1,873. So we are under budget. We don't spend a lot of money. If we end up having an election in the near future, we'll probably spend $700 or $800, but that remains to be seen. The finance report,
Excuse me, before you move on to the finance report, I have a question about that. If we don't spend all that $4,000, does it roll over and that means we get to spend 5,000 next year?
No,
as in all government budgets, use it or lose it.
Oh,
It rolls over somewhere, but not to
Can
our.
can we move some of that money to other line items that we're over on? Can that be
You have to
done?
talk to Matt about that. I suspect not.
Ah, okay.
That's a naughty thing to.
I know I know it's an
Mhm.
accounting, no, but if it's like a general fund, sometimes you can do that. So I was just
Sometimes it's
asking.
the related line items, yeah.
Yeah, okay, all right,
A question for Matt.
okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Steve on the treasury report? Okay, thank you, Steve. The MVMCC Finance Committee report,
The
the DSCR.
ESCR for the month, the fiscal year through 9 months through the end of March is 1.47, even with all my adjustments. I have studied Chris Blanc's budget for this current fiscal year because when he originally set it up a year ago, when he was meeting with Jay and myself, the budget penciled out to a DSCR of 2.0 or better. So I'm trying to compare and see what's different. And the main thing is that he's budgeted a large amount of capital expenditures compared to what we have actually spent. And we have spent in other areas, which are operating expenses. The capital expenditures get removed for the DSCR calculation, allowing for a larger profit. Non-capital expenditures do not get removed and do not provide for a larger profit. They're just expenditure, ordinary expenses. So, a couple things there. We have about 150,000 at least that is tree and brush clearing that could well be considered a capital item by accounting theory. And I have advanced that discussion in form of a paper I found to Chris Blanc to request that he consider that and move those expenses from our operating expense for the brush clearing to capital, because they're indeed, especially the ones on the hillside, the big trees and lots of brush, that's a long-term effort to recreate the nature of those spaces, make them into defensible space. So those, theoretically, those should be capital expenditures, and they are sitting on our books as operating expenses. So that, moving that would help the DSCR.
Is that enough? Is 150,000 enough
In light of that, I got forwarded an email from John Hanson that he got from Matt. It is an email from Chris Blanc asking Matt to keep expenses to 100,000 for the next 2 months, which for us would be only payroll taxes, insurance, management fees, and utilities, of course. Most of the utilities get reimbursed. And
the faux pas seems to have occurred when Matt received the invoices and sent them on to Helsing Group to be paid. Cheryl should have noted where those expenses were to be paid out of, whether they were going to be paid out of capital or out of operating. So although it's an issue for the city and looking at those accounts, it goes back to how Cheryl, the accountant for Helsing Group, where she paid those out of and affected the balance on those budgetary items. Can we contact Cheryl and ask her if she can straighten that out?
they are not listed on our capital budget. for the current year. That's why she didn't do that. And it's not her job to make a decision to change that. That would have to be the city accounting department.
Yeah, well, on the budget, there is a capital item for slopes.
Well, that's dirt and earth movement prevention. That's not cutting down trees. And it's a whole different idea.
Okay.
But it's a discussion that should be had because that's the low hanging fruit. If we can do that, that'll get us up in the 1.8 area, which is not too bad.
May I ask, what is the next step then? Steve, you have sent something to Chris Blanc saying.
I sent an email to Chris Blanc, have not heard back from him. I told him pretty much word for word. I heard about your request to Matt to limit expenses, but based on my examination of the financial statement, that will be dubious. But it would be good to move the 250,000 from the two categories where the brush and tree removals are listed to a capital expense. And I haven't heard back from him. That was about 3 or 4 days ago.
Okay.
He doesn't have to respond to me, but it would be nice.
Mm-hmm.
He might have forwarded that to the person under him who is responsible for.
That's right. I suggested he forward this to the finance department.
Yeah, and there's one person who's responsible for Marin Valley, as I understand it.
And it's to their benefit to do this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Worst case, I suggested, and Jay and I talked about this. If we can't do this and the bank gets testy, I mean, we could pay off the loan. The loan is going to be paid off by the end of 26, and we don't have any large capital projects happening until then. So we'd be using the same money between now and then to pay off the loan as we would if we paid it off right now, without any further large needs for that money in the interim. So it's like, pay me now, pay me later. But that's a major consideration, I guess.
Well, I think that's something we can discuss with the city in July after we have our workshops in June.
I have another question.
Yeah,
and that is
one more thing. This isn't urgent because the DSCR is not an issue until the year-end financial statements are prepared, and even then, probably not until the CPA firm has audited them. And I don't know when that is, August, September, October, something like that. So it's nothing's going to happen about this in the near future.
Carol Joy?
well, my question is kind of a large one like that. Like, say that audit happens and the bank says, hey, you haven't fulfilled your end of the agreement by having a DSCR be 2.0 or greater, therefore we're calling the loan, and you're saying, big deal, we pay it.
Here's the check.
Pay it off. But so this, my question is kind of related, and that is, these pump stations, pump station number 2, which was done for 1.1 million, and pump station number 1, which is just starting for another 1.1 million, we were told that we would get $3 million from the, well, it's from the feds, but through the city for those 2 projects. And we haven't seen that money. And so my question is, do you, Steve, or do you, Jay, have any information through Matt or through Chris Blanc or whatever about when that money is going to arrive in our account?
Pump station number 2 is not in our capital budget. So I'm assuming the city is bearing that expense.
No, you're pump station number 1 is the one that there's
number 1, right? They're backwards. Sorry. Pump
Okay.
station number 1 is not in our capital budget for this year or next year or any year. So I'm assuming the city has decided to bear that cost. Now, we do need to be reimbursed for pump station number 2, and Jay and I will continue to ask about that.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
that's,
we have asked in emails and in meetings.
I don't know, it's the city council approved it, that they would spend that money on us. Not just they would get the grant and use it to replace whatever the pumps cost, but that they would give it to MVMCC to do the work. So it seems like that's supposed to happen. So we need to keep bugging them about that.
okay, okay, thank you.
Ellen Jane has a question.
Yeah, I'm all for paying off loans, big time. But if we pay off, we use that money to pay it. Where do we? How do we build that money?
We save 150,000 in interest if we do that.
Do it. But how do we how do we build up that money again? Where's that money?
We are not the signers on the loan, so we have to meet with people like Chris Blunk and get him to talk to the council to make it happen. So that's a undertaking.
And just a few months ago, we talked about that at PAC meetings, at several PAC meetings.
They brought it up, yeah.
And we had a consensus. I think we had a vote.
They brought it up, but then Chris Blunk kind of backed out of it, saying, whoa, wait just a minute. We need to wait and see the results of this capital reserve study and
right.
see when our reserves are going to be needed to see if we can actually do that.
Right, and then they never got back to us.
Looks to me like we can.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm kind of responding to Ellen Jane's concern there. But yeah, I mean, it makes sense to us, but we need to make sure there's enough in reserves. And the city said, well, we'll study that and get back to you, and they haven't. So,
Steve, while we're on this subject, we were going to schedule a date for you and I to discuss with the residents about the financial program that was put out by Chris last month that is going to be reviewed in June. So I would like to set up a date and give the residents an opportunity to access the information that we have and have a general meeting with residents to see if we can hammer out some questions that we want to raise in this June meeting that we're going to have with the city staff about how we are going to go forward, both financially and organizationally wise with the park. So do you have an idea of a date that would be available, that you'd be available?
Me?
Do you have any preference? It's probably, I think it's best off doing it at night, either 6:30 or 7 o'clock after people have a chance to eat or whatever. What do you
Evenings are best for me. Yeah.
Probably a Tuesday.
Also,
Well, for the next month, I have play practice on Thursday evenings.
How about Tuesday?
Okay, so
And rehearsals.
Thursdays are out. Okay. So,
Yeah.
it needs to be more than one meeting. It
Yeah.
needs to be at least two.
And there's an MVES meeting in there somewhere, so you got to look out for that. But other than that, my schedule is flexible.
okay.
Is the meeting with, I thought that the meeting with city staff was not really set yet. And Chris Blunk said he wanted,
This is just for residents.
no, I know.
Answer resident
but-
questions.
I know, but Jay said he wanted to have this before meeting with city staff and
In June.
well, Chris Blunk said they're so busy with the budgeting, they wouldn't even be available until the end of June or July. So,
For the first meeting.
yeah.
Okay.
That has nothing to do with what we're doing. What we're
Well,
doing
yes.
is,
Well, it's a related topic, but just the focus is different.
we want to have meetings with residents before we get together with city, right?
Yeah.
That's what we're setting up.
We need to know the pleasure of the people before we can speak for them.
Yeah.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
I'm saying Chris Blunt doesn't even want to meet until late June and or July, and we need, I think, 2 meetings before that.
Carol, Joey, we just want to set up the first meeting. When we set up the first meeting, we meet with residents, and then we can set up a second, a third, and a fourth meeting if needed.
Okay.
So Thursdays are out. So
How about Tuesday?
Tuesdays. Let's try Tuesday. Do you want to go?
Tuesdays are good.
We're gonna put out
No
the
dance, no
information.
play practice.
Let's put out the information and let's have the first meeting on the 16th. Give people a chance to digest it.
May 16th?
May 16th.
Well, doesn't Steve have rehearsal?
He has
What
a
about Tuesday nights?
Thursday.
Thursdays.
Oh, so we can do
Tuesday is not Thursday.
So we can do Tuesday, May 16th.
Right.
Okay.
Is that okay with you, Steve?
Yeah, I'd like to say something about this topic right now, because if people are listening, I've been hearing rumors that people are freaking out because they think the city is going to sell the park. There is no such comment like that coming from anywhere. The city council did not say anything like that. They cannot collude about that because of the Brown Act. And they have not mentioned any thought like that to us. The words they used at the meeting were what was the language they were using? The future
Long-term sustainability.
of the park. And that is simply a financial term used to straighten things out when they get a little wonky and don't look good. Okay? So there's budget planning to do, and there may be some changes, but I would really caution anyone from getting afraid of our future. But we can talk about this more at this Tuesday night meeting.
And also at that meeting, 2 city council members explicitly said, okay, Pat Eklund said exactly, I have no interest in selling the park.
Of course.
And another council member said the same thing.
And he was more the businessman type.
Yes,
So
he's a finance guy.
they're not out to get us. They're just trying to think like people who are responsible for managing a large enterprise that has a lot of assets. And they're in a moment of examining all of their assets because of their budget problems. So certainly they're going to look at us. But we all know that we're an enterprise fund and we are expected to manage our own expenses with our own income. And we have been doing that every year. So it's highly unlikely that we're at any risk other than to do better with our budget. And that's what remains to be talked about and discussed. There will be some changes.
So
before you jump in, is there any other questions from the board? Okay, Joe, you have your hand up. You have your mic on? No.
Joe, can you put it in the chat? Go down to the bottom of your screen where it says chat and just click on that and then type in your question or comment. And we can read it and say to everyone and then click enter and we can read it that way. So did we decide that the 16th is our meeting?
The first meeting, yes.
What
At
time?
What time, Jay?
Sorry?
What time?
What time? The 6:30 is good for you?
Okay, 6:30. And it's a Zoom meeting?
Yes. And the idea is that we will get all the information that we have available from the city for perusal by the residents, and we will be prepared to discuss it with them and to get their input.
Okay.
Okay, moving on. Report regarding the 2x2 meetings between myself and Carol Joy Harris. Do you have anything, Carol Joy?
No, just about the rules and regs, but that's further down in the agenda, so.
Yeah. Okay, I don't have anything.
Okay.
So moving on to project planning, John Hanson and Jay Shelfer. We want to schedule a date for project planning as well. As was pointed out by Steve a moment ago, the capital budget has a big effect on the amount of monies that we need to have in order to finance these projects. And part of the effort that Chris made was to point out the cost of replacing many of the different pieces of the infrastructure for the park. And what we want to do in that meeting with residents is to talk about the actual needs for doing various different projects, because we feel that there is a different time schedule from that which was put forward by the city in that previous meeting. So there may just be some misunderstandings. For example, the pool was going to be replaced in X amount of years. We actually have just recently resurfaced and resurfaced the area around the pool and the pool itself and the hot tub. So that's probably good for another 20, 30 years. So there are some things that in looking at the needs for the infrastructure in absentia from what is actually happening on the ground may differ from their understanding, and we want to be able to look through their proposals or their observations with what we feel to be the actual needs of replacing and maintaining the infrastructure. So we're going to try to get Matt involved in these discussions, and hopefully in the meeting that we will have with residents to look at these things. So John, do you have a date in mind? We're going to be meeting on the 16th with the finance. When would you consider having the first meeting with the project planning?
Well, I was thinking we would do that before the finance. Might be next Tuesday. The thing is, just very generally, what I envision we're doing here is we need to see, okay, what do we really need to do, and then how are we going to pay for it? So I think we kind of need to know what we're going to do first before we look at how we're going to pay for it. Maybe not totally in that, okay, there's a finite amount of money available. So potentially, I should say, at least prognosticated on the upcoming budget years. So if we have something like that to work with, in other words, we don't have $100 million, so we probably have far less than that. So if we can identify what we need, that's my objective in the project planning meeting. And then with Jay, with you and Steve, then can address, okay, how are we going to pay for it?
Okay, so I'm good with next Tuesday, the 9th at 6:30 to have that first general meeting. And again, as need be, we can schedule another meeting.
Yes.
Depending on what develops in the first meeting.
Exactly. We play a tag team with the finance committee.
Right. Okay, so let's go with Tuesday the 9th at 6:30. We'll set up, and hopefully we'll be able to have another Zoom meeting if you get back on your computer, John.
Yeah.
Well, may I just point out that if there are 3 PAC board members there, then it constitutes a PAC meeting, and
that's okay. We just agendize it, and like a regular PAC meeting, just like we did with MVest. Same thing.
Okay. Somebody's going to have to take minutes, and it's going to have and do an agenda, and yeah. Okay. So, okay. Next Tuesday, the 9th, at what time?
6:30.
30.
So that has to project planning. Okay, that agenda has to. Okay.
Yeah, if there's going to be more than 2 PAC members, if, we're going to report back what we find out to the PAC board.
Okay, well, if it's a committee meeting, and Steve, were you going to go to that?
I
Because I'm not going to go
might be best if I don't.
unless if nobody goes except John, the PAC board except John and Jay, then it's not a PAC meeting. It's
Okay.
a committee meeting, and yeah.
And then we'll take notes and report back to the PAC,
Okay.
the next regular scheduled meeting.
Perfect.
Okay.
But the meeting on the 16th will be a PAC meeting because
Why?
I have a feeling at least 3 of us are going to go.
Yeah, it's okay. We'll just
Okay.
schedule it that way. We'll set it up that way.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it's mainly to hear resident questions and answer with topic discussions. We won't be deciding anything.
Oh, right. It's a workshop. It's not a.
That's
Okay.
right.
Thank you.
Exactly.
So it doesn't apply. All right. Thank you.
So
Yeah.
will you clarify? So is it a meeting or is it?
It is.
Well,
It is not.
The only agenda will be to open up to discussion and try to answer questions and
That's right.
maybe direct the discussion in some different areas, but there
Yeah.
won't decisions made, there won't be motions, there won't be policy.
Do I need to be present
No.
on the 16th?
No.
No. And it's not a PAC meeting. It's just a workshop.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
John Feld.
Is
Felt.
this meeting going to be open to the general public?
Yes, both.
The residents,
Both of them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay, because you said basically we're going to have a little meeting beforehand, and then you said a general meeting. I wanted to make sure that it was a general meeting.
Oh, but you know what? I was going to suggest that the main PAC list that we send out agendas and that's the email list. So everybody who, or maybe we should send an email, since it's a Zoom meeting, we should send an email announcement to everybody who can.
That's
so
right. The entire park. Do you
Yeah.
have that list, John? Do you and Irma have the updated list of residents?
Yes, we do.
Excellent.
We have that list.
Okay.
Kind of knew you did, but just want to make sure.
Yeah, so
It'll cost you.
between John Hansen and Steve and myself, we'll put together an email with the information and send it to everybody on that list.
Great. We asked Joe Davila to put something in chat, and it looks like he put in 2 things.
Wow.
You
Yeah,
want to read those?
very chatty for Joe. Yes, he put in 2 things. Actually, he's asking if if maybe Chris Blunk is trying to subsidize the staff for the city out of our budget, and
Or the general fund?
yeah, and I don't think so. I don't think that's the case.
And they can't.
Yeah.
Technically they could, but they never have, and they have no intention of doing so. And they just want MVMCC to be self-supporting, which we always have been. So it's not a worry.
Yes, but there
these
is one
are
thing.
questions for the May 16th meeting.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
But we do need
It's
to
exactly what it's for.
we do need to address the money that has been taken out. by the city.
What do you mean?
Well, it says in the loan agreement it's 25,000, and yet that has increased dramatically over the last few years. And
That in the loan agreement, that language is specifically about calculating the DSCR.
I didn't read that, Steve.
It doesn't tell the park what and how we can spend. If you follow the whole thread through the different paragraphs of the agreement, that's what it is defining, how to calculate the profit and the figure that they need. It's not about limiting our spending.
No, but I think what John Hanson is referring to is the administrative fees that the city charges for.
Exactly. And for purpose of the DSCR, we're only to include 25,000 in that calculation. Anything else gets adjusted out, just like capital disbursements.
Well, for several years, Steve, it wasn't that way. They took a blank sum of 25,000 out. Had nothing to do with the DSCR. They called it administrative expenses. And then that has gone up dramatically, and nothing is differentiated, whether it's for DSCR or whether it's for anything else. We asked for a itemization on that, and we got a 3-line itemization on it. You know, this year, last year, and the year before. I mean, that's it. And that really doesn't help us to budget when, when money is taken out willy-nilly without a like a contract or an agreement ahead of time of what it is, how much they're going to take, what's it going to be spent on, and how much is it? And we don't get that information, and we really need to get that information. We can't make a budget without knowing where the money's going and when. Yeah.
Okay. Any further questions on this item? So, John Hanson,
Invest. Okay. Well, there's a couple of things coming up. On May 20 is the number of things happening here in the park on May 20, but we're also doing an evacuation exercise. It'll be a little bit different this time in that the county EOC will contact us in the park specifically with Alert Marin, asking us all to leave. They will also provide several warnings ahead of time, so nobody should be surprised to get that Alert Marin message to evacuate. And then we've got it sort of set up that our residents from Marin Valley then will go, when you evacuate, go directly to the Civic Center. And I have a map for that I'll get out to everybody. And so that we can all participate in the Ember Stomp. So that is one thing. The other, another thing is that we did have a meeting. It was nicely attended. There was a lot of this was with Marin Center for Independent Living, and there were a lot of people there, and people were quite interested in what MCIL had to offer. So that was a very nice get together. And our next get together for Invest then will be John, are we still calling that a volunteer Invest volunteer roundup? I don't know. We have more planning to do on that. That's certainly part of the agenda for that, but we're also want to open this to members of the community at large. Just to see what's Invest doing? What are we doing? What's our plan? what are our projects. So we'd like to reveal that to people so that they know. I know there's a lot of people in the park that have their own idea what MVS should be doing, and yet probably haven't figured out or found out or asked anybody what that is. So here's the opportunity then to really find out. Anything else, John? I don't have my notes here. Got sort of flummoxed.
Yes.
Okay. That's all I have to say.
Hang on, one more.
The meeting on the 12th, which is always good to see.
Sit down.
The Fire Safe Marin meeting is next Friday, not this Friday, but next Friday.
That's right. Yeah, MVS meeting is Monday. The Marin VOAD meeting is on Wednesday, and Fire Safe Marin is on. That is the Firewise leaders of part of Fire Safe Marin. That will be on Friday. Everybody is welcome to those too.
John, is there any word on the goats or any clearing that the fire department is planning on doing?
Yeah, actually, there's quite a bit of information on that. Nothing is really firm on that, but the general plan. Several years ago, when the Greater Novato, what's it called? Greater Novato Shaded Fuel Break was originally conceived. Back then, they were looking at Marin Valley as being kind of on the tail end of that, like maybe 5 years from now. But they have since redone that, and I think Bill Davis had a lot to do with this, and to actually include Marin Valley this year. So they're going to be starting probably this month. They will bring in the goats. They will bring in the hand crews. They will bring in all the heavy equipment. They'll do the controlled burning and the mulching and everything out there. We may need something of our budget there. Not really sure exactly what yet, because I haven't met with the fire district yet to see exactly what they're going to do and when. And so we may need to do some fine tuning along that. But yes, it amounts to essentially erasing our fire mitigation line item on our budget, which was about, what was that, Steve, 150,000?
This current year, yeah.
Yeah, and probably some of the tree work as well.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Is there any, Ellen, 1 second. Is there any other comments from the board first? Okay, Ellen Jane?
Yeah, thank you. I was going back to what John said about the evacuation and the Ember Stomp. I would like to suggest that there's something put out about carpooling, and I'm not sure where to suggest that people meet up to park their cars to carpool together to the Civic Center, but that's just my suggestion.
And you can smart train.
Well,
What?
that's a thought, Ellen Jane. The idea, basically, fundamental idea for evacuation is get in your car and get out of Dodge.
Right.
So usually carpooling requires some sort of preliminary planning. On an evacuation, we won't have that, but still we can think about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or like we could meet at the park and ride or something
That's right.
over there, the bus stop.
John
For those who
Feld.
wish. Thank you.
Yes, John.
John Feld.
It's a drill,
the people,
though. Sorry. I was just
the
going to
people
say,
at Ember,
go ahead.
the people at Ember Stomp have dedicated parking for evacuation participants. So parking will not be an issue at the Civic Center.
That's right.
Well, carbon footprint is, if we're all going individually in our cars, I'm just suggesting carpooling is.
That's the idea of evacuation is you get in your car and you leave. You don't go to your neighbor's house and say, I want to drive. That's the idea of evacuation.
Yeah, that's not what I'm suggesting, John.
Well, the other thing,
Okay.
Ellen Jane, is a possibility is that people can set all of those things up so that if they did have to evacuate, that they could do that, carpool.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get out of here and meet somewhere to go to the civic center instead of everybody using their gas to get down there. That's it. Thank you.
If we're done with that subject, before we move on to the next agenda item, I just wanted to say that Carmen Wright, who works with Chris Blanc at the City Public Works Department, put something in chat. I'm just going to read it because since I already brought it up. It says, because we're making an audio recording of this meeting rather than the usual video. Hi all, I just want to reassure you all that the goal is to address the long-term capital needs for MVMCC. And she was saying that in response to the previous agenda item about finances. So thank you, Carmen.
Sorry. Hi. Yeah, no worries. Sorry.
Oh, there she is.
We've been to it. Yeah. Excuse me. Hello, everyone. It was actually to address Joseph's comment. So I just want you all to rest assured that's the main goal. So that was it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's a computer glitch in my brain. Anyway, yeah, thank you for responding that way. I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name, but Carmen. Yes. The point I was trying to make was I get the impression that all of a sudden, back to that subject, that all of a sudden there's this unawareness of what really happened in regards to the acquisition of Marin Valley Drive by the city. And the point I wanted to make was that I don't believe that they really expected us to be a cash cow for them. I believe that it was intentionally meant to be a neighborhood for low-income people and not a profit-making situation for the city of Novato. But I hear all this thing about there's a big shortfall and all that, and maybe that's where the confusion is. But the question I really had was, I believe there's a misunderstanding as to why we're here debating what we should do with the loan and the obligations that we have to meet. And I've always believed that we should pay the loan off and then establish a good flow of
Cash.
Of capital expenditures for the benefit of the park and the residents, and not necessarily somebody's got to pay taxes. Of course, we pay taxes, I guess, for the property that is owned by the city or vice versa. I don't know how that works, but I feel we're keeping up to our obligation to pay the loan off, and we should do that so that these other projects are taken care of, and we don't have to have an engineer in the city come back and tell us that we need to, increase rents. We already know that. We know that we need to do it on a regular basis. But I think there's a misunderstanding because we're not getting all the information from the city, and that's not to blame anybody other than the fact that we need to pay more attention. And I feel we're on solid grounds as long as people don't believe that if we pay the loan off, that we're actually owning the park and we can sell it. That's not the intention, I believe, that needs to be emphasized to everybody, that it's going to be to our benefit to have that money that's going in towards the loan to improve the infrastructure of the park. That's all I'm getting at.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joseph.
Well,
And
thanks,
hopefully
Joe.
at those meetings that you all will be attending in the summer, all of that will get flushed out and you all
Yeah.
are able to come
Yes,
to a
exactly.
solution. That is the hope.
That's the whole, Carmen. Thank you.
Thank you, Carmen. Yeah.
You're welcome.
One thing I noticed is that, that the city has their own issues financially. They're a bit in the hole, and they're projected to be even deeper in the hole. So that's one thing that may cause some people to think that the city's looking for Marin Valley to bail us out. But I don't see that as the case. But with all of that being said, I would say that the city looks at Marin Valley more in terms of not being a liability and making sure that the finances are there for what needs to be done.
Right.
The thing is that my perspective on what needs to be done is very different from what Chris came up with. And the other thing is that my objective for being on the board from the get-go, and still is that there are many people here in the park that are living on the edge financially. Now, there's a lot of costs that have gone up, utilities especially, and some people have gone cold this winter because they could not afford to, light their furnace. And so raising rent on those people, to me, is a non-starter. That would force them out of here. Simply raising the rent. I believe that there's a better way to do it. We're going to have to sharpen pencils and really get down to see exactly what needs to be done and when it needs to be done and figure out how to pay for that without raising rent.
Well, we're kind of straying into what we should be talking about at those other meetings.
Yeah, that's right. But it's just some background there, so yeah.
Okay, so moving on to John Feldman, HOL.
Hi. As you probably know, HOL's meeting is tomorrow, which you're all very welcome to attend. It'll be in the fireside room. And so what I'm going to tell you is stuff from last month and stuff that I'm hoping will be in the following month. But what we've got planned as HOL is we've got the Breezeway Market coming up on this Saturday. And then we've got a movie about it's called Tattooed Trucks, and it's some people who've made a movie about Nepal and the decorating of trucks and the local art in Nepal, and they're going to be showing that in the ballroom. Then it's followed by 2 nights of the play. Today's the Day, it's called, and Vicky is the author, and it's going to be amazing and probably a sellout crowd. So if you want to make sure you've got a seat, sign up as soon as the thing goes up at the desk. That's on the 20th and the 21st. The 21st is a matinee, the 20th is in the evening. We have a Circle of Friends meeting on the 23rd, which is a Tuesday. And for the following month, July, just so you can know, that 3rd of July, there'll be a celebration of all the work that Pauline Hawkins has put into the park. And she has done an amazing amount, particularly around the clubhouse, but also the daffodils and even the park, the little park by the pump house, which was pulled down today. She's been very busy, and her job has been taken over by the Helsing Group. So we're having a little celebration to thank her for everything that she's done. We're about to have a second pelvic floor meeting, which Jay is going to participate in as well. And if you go to the clubhouse, you'll see that Art in the Park has just got a new art show, which is magnificent. And the Yard Maintenance Committee is getting back into gear now that the weather's picking up. We're still looking for gardeners, so if anybody has recommendations for good gardeners who we can afford, That's great. For the time being, Peggy, who's organizing it, is getting people to, she's talking to them directly, and they're going to get the gardener in with the budget that she stipulates, and they can organize it rather than having her do it as a middle person. They can do it directly. That's about it, I think. Have you got any questions? If not, please come to the meeting tomorrow. It'll be a lot of fun.
Thank you, John.
HOL meetings are fun.
Vicki, do you have something from Marvel?
Yes, I do, directly from President Carolyn Corey.
All right.
This Friday, May 5th, is Cinco de Mayo. They're going to serve pork verde, chicken and cheese tamales, rice and beans, and margaritas are on the rocks. The deadline to sign up is, tomorrow. So better get your check-in. You must have a reservation if you wish to eat dinner, though please know everyone is welcome regardless. There will be no pizza that evening, okay? May 12th at Pub, there will be a remembrance and tribute to wonderful Patrick Wheatley. Usual pub drinks and food will be available. On May 29th, Memorial Day is our first event held on the deck, weather permitting. Hot dogs and hamburgers will be served. We will be honoring all veterans. We'll also be celebrating Marion Pilates on her 100th birthday. That's a wonderful celebration. And that's it from Marvel.
Thank you. John Hanson, PAC Board election, Carol Joy Harris and John Hanson.
Okay, with the election, I still have not heard of more than one person looking to occupy the one seat that's really available on the PAC board, although there's really two, but one PAC board member is going to run again, so and he's doing a great job, so I can't see him getting replaced. So at any rate, one seat open, but if anybody wants to participate in the PAC board, be on the board, let's see, nominations open on May 5 and go to May 12. And then on May, I think it's the 20th or the 21st is the Greet the Candidates. But it probably won't happen because, like I said, I haven't heard of any more. And then then if we do actually have an election, then we'll be sending out ballots to everybody in the park, and you can send them back in or bring them back into the to the ballot box. Will be in the I don't know if it'll be in the breezeway or in the clubhouse. Probably, I think isn't that what we're doing, Carol Joy?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's in the clubhouse, and then either the night of the 2nd or the morning of the June 3rd is we'll tally the ballots and announce it at the membership meeting on the 3rd.
Annual meeting.
Yeah. And just so you know that that membership meeting, if you're a resident, if you're a bona fide resident in Marin Valley, you are a member of Marin Valley. So this meeting is for you, for all of you. I can't remember if we have ever had a quorum of people there to actually do any business, but generally what happens is the PAC board is there and we conduct the meeting for the 20 or 30 people that do show up. But if it is a nice thing, so nice to see who your representatives are. And so I encourage everybody to consider running for the board and also attending the membership meeting on the 3rd.
We should have refreshments.
Yes, we had pizza last year.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so we'll do something. Anything but pizza.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on to the status of the rules and regs, Carol Joy and.
Oh, oops. There's a chat from Carmen Wright. Oh, darn. She says she has to drop off. Enjoy the rest of the meeting. Darn, because we were just getting to the rules and regulations. Oh, Carmen.
Oh, I can stay a little bit.
You can stay
longer
for
if you
just a
want.
second.
Sure, that's fine.
Okay. Serena is out of town right now, and I have been out of town and just returned tonight in time for the meeting. But I did see some emails in the last couple weeks, but I didn't respond. But I saw one from Carmen that, a couple of them I thought were important to bring up tonight, and that is there was a very specific timeline of what needs to happen that was developed by the city attorney. We were working with Veronica Nebb, and was given to Serena and me. It wasn't just willy-nilly. This was developed with care, and that list Serena and I sent to Carmen and Chris Blunk. The email that I just saw, Carmen had highlighted the next step. I think there's a misunderstanding there, because the next step that was highlighted was the PAC board would approve the draft, and then it would go to the city. That already happened. The PAC board did approve the draft, but that draft was only there were a couple of preliminary Zoom meetings that Serena and I had, but they were not the big resident meetings that we need to have as part of the process. So that hasn't happened yet. Yeah. And so what's happening right now is PAC board approved a draft just to get it moving back to the city, so that the city could look at it and send it through legal. The legal, it came back to Serena and me with very, very minor changes. I mean, there's nothing substantive that changed. We made those changes or made comments, and it went back to the city. It is now on Chris Blunk's desk. He is looking at it to edit it and make any suggestions he has. But it has not even gone to the part of the process where we have these big meetings, hopefully huge meetings, with as many residents as want to participate, so that all the residents' concerns can be addressed, and then that goes back to the city. So
when are you going to have that meeting, Carol Joy?
We haven't gotten Chris Blunk's comments back yet. When he gets that back to us, then we need to schedule the at least 2 meetings. We want to have at least 2 meetings, maybe a daytime meeting and an evening meeting. And I personally would like to have at least one of those in person for people who don't Zoom. So that's the step where, I mean, these are our rules. We need everybody's.
Carol Joy, can you explain to me what we're waiting Chris Blanc to give us? What's he supposed to give us?
His comments and recommendations.
Well, we've got the comments from the legal department, right? The city's staff, legal.
Yes. So.
Sorry, Carol, if you wanted me to, Carol Joy, for me
yes,
to
please,
yeah.
Carmen, please.
Sorry.
Please step in here.
Just to explain, Chris will have to review them as well. And then you all were going to be able to see them. That's the whole point of the discussion. You all don't have to agree with them, with the rules that will be, presented. But that's the whole point of, he does have to look at them beforehand.
Before we show it to the residents. Carmen,
Yes.
before we show them to the residents, he wants to review them.
That is correct, because he may make some changes, so you may want to wait before it goes out to the residents.
Okay. Carmen, do you think that that will be able to happen before, say, the beginning of June?
Unfortunately, I don't know. He hasn't, unfortunately. I was hoping to move it along. That's why I thought that process had already, began and stopped with him.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to move it along, but unfortunately, he does have the final say on that. So I cannot give a timeline, unfortunately.
Okay. So my opinion is that we need to wait for Chris, because I know they're really involved in their budgeting process, and we might not get it back from him until July. I mean, realistically, and then we should have our big meetings here, big as we can, to get all the input we can from the residents, really work on it again, and then say, okay, this is what we want, and give that back to the city. I remember there's more steps. The city council has to approve it. We have to give 6 months notice to all the residents before they go into effect. There's this whole process.
Also, Carol Joy, I'm sorry. Given that there are some huge meetings with you all coming up too, I would take that into consideration, how far that these rules are on the priority list for Chris. Not to say they're not important, but I know that he's also having to prep for this meeting as well, that you all are having in the next couple months in the summer. So all I can do is just try to, push it along, but I can't guarantee we'll be able to move that up as I was hoping to.
I agree. And I think that the long-term sustainability and the finances and the project planning, all those things actually, I mean, I hate to say it, but I think they do take priority over the rules and regulations. We've waited years for these. So
yes.
I agree.
Carol Joy, can we end this and just say, let's keep this report status on the agendas going forward, and we'll just watch the situation and move it as quickly as we can.
Absolutely.
And Ellen Jane, I think she had a question about how long.
Well, it depends on how you count it, Ellen Jane. Her question is, how many years have we been waiting? I'd say it depends on how you count it. 10. Yeah, I mean, this set right here is like 3 years, but then the set that Peggy Hill and John Hanson and a bunch of people worked on was from like 7 years ago, and that never got. I mean, it's just ridiculous. So
yeah. So that's why another reason why I was trying to push it along, because my understanding it had been many years, unfortunately, that you all have been waiting for this, but.
Yeah. That's right, and the problem is that it's R&R's always takes the back row, the back seat, to other things, so it could be years again before it gets off Chris' desk.
I doubt it. I'm here now.
Good.
But I'm trying to move things along. I mean, it was given to me. I only just got here in November, and it was given to me. I don't know, what was it, back in January to move this forward. So. If that January, February, I can't remember the exact date. So
appreciate it, Carmen. Appreciate it.
No problem.
John Feld.
I might be naive, but can somebody explain to me why the city engineer is involved in our rules and regulations?
Because Chris Blanc is our liaison with the city staff. That's it.
He's also heavy involved in your budget, and he has quite a bit of extensive knowledge of you all as well.
Right, because he is our liaison, and so he's involved in the budgeting. He's involved in all the capital projects and other projects. Yeah, he's our liaison.
And I see your all's billing, and I have to approve your all's billing, and that's how I come into play. So whatever else that falls within that I have to be involved in, that's where I come in at.
Thank you.
Yes, okay, thank you. And thank you, Carmen, for sticking around and helping.
Yeah, no problem.
Clarify.
Okay.
Can I ask something on this point? I'm sorry, I had my hand raised.
Yes, sure, Michelle.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure that you're kind of aware of a gap that's happening right now. And that's something that Matt and I have been talking about, and it has to do with his approval of new structures that are coming in right now. And what I was pointing out to him is that our rules and regulations say 15 feet, da 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 da. And I was asking him about how he was measuring, because clearly the new structures that are coming in and the holes that are being put into vacant properties are higher than their rules and regulations have. And so the bottom line is he's already approving structures higher. He's not figuring out ways to reduce it. So I just want to pass that along to you, that there's a gap between existing rules and his interpretation.
That is one of about 200 gaps, Michelle. I'm
Yep.
not kidding you. That's why we need the new rules and regulations, because, yeah. That's,
Even the rules that are about to be approved?
no,
Oh. Okay. So they're good.
Okay, moving on. We're gonna keep an eye on this. Old business, there's no old business.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good
thank
night.
you, Carmen.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Carmen.
Bye, everyone.
No new business. The annual meeting is going to be on June the 3rd at 12 noon for the seating of the new PAC board directors. And our next PAC board meeting is going to be on Tuesday, June the 6th at 6 p.m. via Zoom. Can I call for adjournment of today's meeting? John
I
Hanson,
move we adjourn.
I second it.
second. All in favor? Good night, one and all.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Good meeting. Right.
All right.
Jay, before you go, oh no, who was recording?